Center for Educational Media and the College of Education at Middle Tennessee State University are proud to offer professional development to K-12 educators in Tennessee through our online video library. These videos are aligned with standards set by the Tennessee Department of Education. For more professional development videos, check out our website at www.mtsu.edu/CEM.
All right, so we've had two great sessions, and we're going to wrap it up with another great session today. We have Ms. Joanne Runyon, who is Senior Director of Unique Learning Needs with the Tennessee Department of Education. We have Dr. Hannah Gribble, who is Title III and Migrant Education Program Grant Manager with the Tennessee Department of Education. And we have Sarah Catherine Hendricks, who is the Tennessee Department of Education statewide EL coordinator. And so they are going to present today with updates, and you can see the title of the presentation. So I look forward to hearing the updates from the Tennessee Department of Education.
Thank you, Dr. Clark, for having us here today. Before we get started, I would like to extend a big thank you to all the districts that we have here today. It is my understanding that every time we gather, we seem to increase the number of participants that we have in our groups, not just in person, but also virtually. So thank you to the folks that are also with us virtually. Very exciting to hear that we're growing our practitioner group, that we're seeing some collaboration with other practitioners that work closely with us in our field. And so it's just very exciting to be able to be here with you all and to see the great work that you are leading in your districts and that you are a part of with making decisions to better serve not just for our students as English learners, but as we think about how they access their core instruction in their classes, their courses of study for our students in high school. And so this is all very key to what we think about what we want our kids to do when they leave their educational careers with us, right? We want to make sure that they're prepared for the best possible outcome when they think about what those post-secondary outcomes are going to look like. So thank you for the job that you do. I want to thank the presenters that we had earlier this morning. I was not able to hear your presentation, but I was told it was phenomenal. So I can't wait to go back and see what all was shared. So thank you, and thank you for the team that I did get to see previously. That was amazing. So I look forward to working with your directors in your districts to hear about the great practices that you all have in place. So to kick us off, I know Ms. Laura introduced us all, so I will skip that part. Our presentation is fairly short today. We will be discussing some updates that will take place as we enter the new school year. So our school year here that's about to start in the fall, school year 2023 to 24. For those of us that speak with fiscal year terminology, FY24, because I know I do have some directors here. So these updates will take place as we think about going back to the new school year. For those of you that are going to be serving summer school, it's probably going to be a speedy summer, but just know that these are some updates to come. Please know that we will also share other updates as we engage in these conversations, and we were also going to provide a robust system of supports that we have in plan to support our districts. So I will go ahead and I'll get us started. So the first slide that you see is our strategic plan. Every time I see this slide, I think about the different areas of work that educators engage with. So here we have academics, we have our student readiness, we have our educators. I believe that everybody in this room and everybody that is joining us virtually impacts these three areas. Not only are you working to ensure that kids get the best exposure with their academics, but you are also impacting that student readiness. And of course, you are the educators that are leading this work. You're growing yourself professionally, whether it be on your own or opportunities that your districts are able to provide, or opportunities that you engage with that we lead at the state. So I see you all fitting very well in all these areas and above when we start thinking about even those other needs that our students might have that are not just tied to academics. So here are some changes that we have coming up for FY24. And before I get into these, I just wanted to share an update. we've had some questions around updated policy that is posted on our TDOE policies and rules page. I checked in this morning with some of our state board peers and partners, and I was told that on June 8th, so June 8th, that's here shortly, June 8th, 2023, our revised rule that has these changes will be posted on that webpage. So look forward to that. All you have to do is in your search engine, type in TDOE policies and rules. It will take you to a page. Make sure that you're clicking on rule because it is a rule now. And you can search chapter 0520, 0119, and that will show the updates that we're going to discuss today. Right now, if you look at the rule, the parts that you will see with the date of October 2022 at the bottom of the rule are only the portions that were up for revision and updates, but the June 1 will encompass the whole rule, just as we've seen for March 2022, if you look at that version. So these changes passed their first read August 1st and will begin to be implemented, as mentioned earlier, this next school year, 2023 to 2024. So in addition to what we know is required in our individual learning plans for English learners, there are going to be some areas that are going to be also key focus areas for our students. So if you take a look at the first set of information that we have here, we are looking at ensuring that we have some short-term goals for our students in those ILPs, that we have goals in general that serve for long purpose, that we have accommodations to support students during their instruction, and that we're also addressing the needs for accommodations. And there is some additional information that is going to be new for some folks this year. We acknowledge that in the past, districts have had an opportunity to include the data that they really wanted to focus on as they work with student teams, their ILP teams. And so now there's a little bit more guidance around that. So we know typically that when we look at our individual learning plans, the first set of data that we look at is our English language proficiency assessment data. So for us, our WIDA access data that we get in the fall, for our students that participate in the alternate access, we look at that alternate access data. So in addition to that, there will be opportunities to look at assessment data from benchmarks, universal reading screening, our Tennessee comprehensive assessments, our TCAP, for our high school students, our EOCs. And so this will be available for our districts as an opportunity to ensure that we're looking at a big body of evidence that guides us on how we're best preparing instruction for our students. So that will be something that we will look at as well as we work together with districts. One of the focuses that you will see that's a little different, there's going to be a really strong, deep focus, in particular with our early learners, or like our K-3 students. We realize that a lot of their individual learning plans will have a lot of language academic supports. This will be the same for our 412, but with our 412, we're adding in another component. So we're looking at adding some information around career readiness. The reason for this is when we look at our data across the state, and when I've had the opportunity to work with directors in our CCTE office, we've engaged in conversations about the accessibility and opportunities for our English learners to participate in our CCTE pathways. And so we want to make sure that we're helping districts, we're helping our students engage with these pathways to better support them when they leave their careers with us. So that's going to be a focus. We've had some questions already, what is this going to look like? So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. You will have some guidance on this to help with this with districts. We have a unique learning needs working group right now that is comprised of 9 educators across the state. We have folks from First Tennessee, Hamilton County. We have folks from Anderson County and East. We have folks from Loudoun County and East as well, in particular Lenore City area. We're working with folks in Collierville that are presented in the group, as well as Jackson-Madison. We have folks on the group from Hamilton County, so the Chattanooga area. We actually even have a partner from our our program here at MTSU. One of the adjunct professors is on our group as well. And we also have a superintendent from Middle Tennessee as part of that working group. And these folks have been tasked with supporting us with the needs across the state. So ensuring that we have the guidance that is needed for the different components as we move forward with the use of ILPs in the next school year. Also, I know that you all have heard that we will have a statewide platform. That is correct. This will launch July 1st. The name of the platform is Tennessee Pulse. Tennessee Pulse will be the statewide platform that will house all learning plans for students. So not only will it house individual learning plans for English learners, it will house individual learning plans for students with characteristics of dyslexia, our Section 504 plans, and our individual education plans, our students with IEPs. So Tennessee Pulse will launch July 1st, and that will be the platform that will support and house our different learning plans for our students as we look at the unique learning needs of every group. So that's going to be a shift for us. I know that some districts have been accustomed to have their own processes and procedures, like through a Google office. Some folks actually have some partnerships and contracts with platforms. So now we're going to have this statewide. And I have the team that was in this position previous to me to thank, because they went across the state, which Hannah, you did that with Miss Deborah France, and engaged in listening tours. And one of the largest asks that we got, could we get a centralized data system? And so it's very exciting to know that we're going to have that in place. Will it be a lot of work? Yes, it will be. But we are working diligently at the state as well with the Unique Learning Needs Group to ensure that the experience that our educators have with that platform is something that's doable, and that it's really going to allow for collaboration, not just ESL teachers amongst ESL teachers, but across with our general education teachers. So I see that as a huge success for Tennessee. So those of you that were part of the listening tours, thank you for the information that you shared, the needs that you brought. We're doing our best to get those different asks rolled out. I know Sarah here will talk a little bit in a few minutes about the standards crosswalk groups that we're working with. Those are also part of the asks that you all brought to the forefront when we engage in these listening tours. So these are some changes that we will see, some revisions, updates with our individual learning plans. Please know that you won't have to go and piecemeal all of this together. We will have a standardized platform that will provide you with the tools, the support that you need. In addition, I will be working with peers across the department, not just Sarah and Hannah, but other departments as well, to ensure that we have communities of practice, that we have some office hours to address your questions, your needs, also to take your feedback as far as what we need to provide those resources across the state. Another item that you see on the slide that's going to be a bit of a shift for some, and I'll explain why I say some, are transitional individual learning plans for students that are in year 1 and year 2 after they met that exit criteria in the state of Tennessee. So currently, I know that we do have some districts that are already writing ILPs for T1s and T2s, just because they want to ensure that they have a method and a procedure of ensuring that they're keeping eye on that progress of the students in these two groups to ensure that success is continuous and we're not seeing regression there. So as a state, we will have T1 and T2 ILPs. Those will also be housed in Tennessee Pulse. Okay. And those individual learning plans will look a little bit differently, because we know that, those students have exited based on our state criteria. So those will be a little bit structured differently with data that we look at and so forth. So to say that, we do have unique learning need preview sessions that will take place across the state. I had some folks already ask me about those this morning, and so I will share those details. Your Title III directors and your ESL leads in your districts, they subscribe to newsletters at the department, and so this information has been shared with them via the commissioner's director's update. And there will be 8 trainings across the state with a virtual option. And so we have trainings that start May 31st, so that's a Wednesday. We will be in Southwest Tennessee, May 31st, so that is the Jackson area. The next day, we will be in Northwest Tennessee to support our folks that are around like the Milan area, Lake County, our folks in Northwest Tennessee. The following week on the 7th, we will be in Southeast Tennessee to be with our folks around the Chattanooga area. So Bradley County, Chattanooga, Meigs County, all those folks in that area, we're coming to your region. June 8th, we will be in the South Central region. And so that's for all of our folks down in South Central, Moore County, which I know they're here today, our folks in Manchester City, our folks in Bedford County, that will be for you. On the 14th, we will be in First Tennessee. So I know we have some Kingsport friends here with us today. That's when we will be in your area. And so I've already been in contact with Mr. Lamar, so we've had conversations. So we will be in that area. The following day, which is June 15th, we will be in East Tennessee, and that will be around the Knoxville area, so Loudoun County area. And I think Miss Rebecca is on virtual with us, so hello to her if she's there with us. June 21st, we will be in Upper Cumberland, so Cookeville area, Putnam County. So those are for our folks out in Overton, DeKalb County, Smith County, our folks around that area. And then June 22nd, we will be in Middle Tennessee. So our folks around Rutherford, Davidson County, Houston, Stewart, Clarksville, Montgomery, Robertson, our folks, what else am I missing that's close? I think I know I didn't capture everyone, but if you're in here from Middle Tennessee, that's when we'll be here with you. So know that your district leadership team are selecting folks to go to the unique learning needs training. And so what we're asking is for districts to register 3 to 4 folks to come to these sessions. And so because we will be addressing not just ESL, English learners, Title III, we will also be addressing characteristics of dyslexia, special education, and 504 plans. They're sending folks that work closely in those roles to gather the information. We will have a virtual option that will be available June 29th. And so that virtual option will mirror what folks see in person, but it'll have to be set up a little bit differently to encompass some breaks and so forth since we will be virtual. So know that those are opportunities that are coming up as well to learn more about the work that we're doing with ILP updates. But I just want to reiterate that, we've heard your needs, we've heard, your feedback, and so I just want to make sure that we know that those supports are going to be in place. We will have some training in July that leadership teams will go to learn how to walk through the new platform, Tennessee Pulse. When it launches July 1, we also see the launching of what we're calling the on-demand modules. And so those on-demand modules will be available to districts to see what this platform can do, like how-to videos to know how to start looking at those different pieces. What we would like to see is for folks that come and join our trainings later in July to have previewed those modules before, so that is some good background knowledge to have once we sit together and walk through the platform. So let me go to the next slide and talk about some other changes so that I can go ahead and turn it over to questions for our folks that are here. So one of the updates that we also see in rule for this next school year is that time frame that we support our students with for ESL service time. So currently in our rule, we have guidance that ESL services are hourly unless a district has data, a team has data to note that a student can participate in tailored services. And you notice that we don't have very prescriptive language around tailored services because tailored services can look differently for students. And so we believe with the feedback that you've given us that those need to be individualized decisions as you're looking at those students that are able to access those services. But for our students that still need an hour, as you see on the slide, the language has changed. So now for our middle school and high school, there is some information that says that students can receive ESL services via an instructional period of no less than 45 minutes. And so for those of you that have your core classes scheduled, like say, for example, you have your English class, your math class, your history classes, they're scheduled for like 45 minutes, 46 minutes, your ESL time can mirror that time because that was also an area of concern. Our districts were saying we're having a hard time getting our minutes in. We don't want to be, not in compliance, so we need this. We do acknowledge that there are some districts that operate a little differently when it comes to your scheduling, and this is why you've heard us talk about this before, the opportunity for waivers, and how if you're in a unique situation and you still need some support, that is a way to communicate with the department around the supports that you need. I think we have a few folks in here that have reached out and said they've submitted waivers and they've gotten approved for certain things that they're able to meet in a different manner when it comes to our ESL rule. But here at the start of the new school year, this will be a shift. So if you have instructional periods that are less than an hour, I know I have some districts that have like 52-minute periods or 53-minute periods. Your ESL time can also mirror that time. The other change that is also coming up with this new school year, you heard me talk about it a few minutes ago, was individual learning plans for characteristics of dyslexia. So now when we talk about individual learning plans, we'll just have to be specific. Are we talking about English learners, or are we talking about our students that are receiving supports through an individual learning plan for characteristics of dyslexia? So these students are students that need some reading support. These are not students that have been identified under IDEA as having a specific learning disability as dyslexia. So they will have characteristics of dyslexia. ILPs are students that need some additional supports with reading. They will be served with dyslexia-specific interventions, and so more guidance is coming out around that. I don't see Miss Erin in the room anymore, so I was going to thank her for the work that she's been doing with the department and our statewide dyslexia coordinator to ensure that this looks and works the way it needs to support our districts across the state. There is also a unique learning needs working group for characteristics of dyslexia, just as how I shared that we have one for unique learning needs. So with that being said, this is our contact information. I know I speak very fast and I said a lot, so it looks like we're still very good on time. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over for some questions. There may be some questions that I may not have an answer for. That's why I have my laptop up here, so that I can share some information with you, like who would be our best contacts and so forth. But before I open it, I want to go ahead and touch base with Sarah and Hannah. Is there anything that I missed, anything that y'all want to add? No? Okay, we're ready for some questions. This is going to be a little different for me because I'm used to walking around and taking people's questions. Are we good to ask questions, Dr. Clark? Okay.
We have a question in the back.
Oh, yes, go for it.
When you talk about the PULSE program, is the data as far as the demographic information, the WIDA scores, the most recent WIDA scores, is all that going to be input, and what is it that we're going to have to input?
Okay, so that's a good question, and thank you for bringing that up. So yes, our what we're doing right now is ensuring that we have the data that we have access to at the State Department available to educators that will engage with that. There will be opportunities for folks to add additional data, and that will be in your district plans, how your supervisors want you to do that, work through those pieces. But as far as that main data, like WIDA access, we will have that. Yes.
Our district uses elevation right now. Will that just go away?
That's a good question. So I'm not sure what district you're with, but we've talked with districts, and they're able to use elevation for the instructional pieces, the collaborative component to it. But as far as the actual individual learning plans, those will have to be in the statewide. But I do hear a lot of folks are keeping theirs, that we heard in Title III office hours, because of the features that they're using to use as collaboration across their sites. So.
And the strategies.
And the strategies. Dr. Clark, you have your hand up.
Yes, we have a question from online. Can any ESL teachers attend the virtual Tennessee Pulse session, or is that for district level only?
So I think they're referring to the ULN preview session that's virtual. That is a great question for our person that asked that. We won't know who is on there because it's virtual. I think my suggestion would be to touch base with their director and see if that's something they can participate in. So I'll be on their present team, but to be honest, I might have like 200, 300 people, so I'm not sure who all will be on there.
So for our students, we do quarterly monitoring.
Great question.
Will we need to upload those monitor forms, or is there going to be a way for us to push those out to the gen ed teachers for them to then respond?
That is a great question. So part of having a statewide platform, if you're familiar with working with Easy IEP currently, you're able to assign roles and folks are able to collaborate. This will work in similar fashion for ILPs. So there will be a way to push those out. There will be a way to set up dates where you have to go in there and do certain things. So yeah, so the way you see Easy IEP, this will mirror in safe fashion for our learning plans that we will have across the state.
And we will not be monitoring from the state level on whether you do monitoring forms or not. It'll be on those ILPs for transition students.
And one thing that I do want to point out that you said is very important is that it is quarterly. You are correct. We've been accustomed to language of 4.5 weeks, so it's quarterly now. Okay. So, Dr. Clark, before I go, can I ask here, because Ms. Christine, Dr. Tennyson, and Rutherford have had their hand up. Go for it.
So what about in high schools? A lot of us do block where we don't have daily the same class every day. So how is that going to work in minutes? Is it going to be an average of 45 minutes a day? Do you understand my question?
Yes, and so I know that for some districts, and yours might be one, they've already submitted a waiver for that. So I would touch base, Chris, with, is it Dr. Turnbull over here? Okay, to ask about that, because we do have a guide that I want Sarah to talk about that will come out and support our teachers. Our vision is to have this out that will have some examples of planning and so forth. And so we do acknowledge that we have some high schools that operate on block scheduling. So for you folks might be the ones that are in that unique situation that will have to present like how minutes are being met and so forth through like a form of a waiver. But I think if I'm correct, we've already had someone reach out from your county, and I think they're working on that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I had a question about the tailored services.
Yes.
Can we no longer tailor services?
No, I'm sorry. Let me go ahead and clarify. Her question is around tailoring services. Yes, you can still tailor services. So you still look at your student data and then look at the criterion rule, and you're still able to tailor services. What I said earlier was that we don't have any prescriptive, like telling you, you have to do 15 minutes today and 25 minutes tomorrow, because we know that those tailored services are individualized for what you're seeing as needs with your students.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay. Dr. Clark.
We have a question from Matthew online. If an EL teacher has a group of EL students during the school-wide RTI time and is providing EL instruction, does that count as service hours?
So based on what you shared, and I don't know if Mr. Matthew's still on there, is he saying that during that time is when they provide ESL services? And that's what he's asking, if that counts as ESL services? Or is he saying that they're using RTI to count as ESL services?
So Matthew, if you will clarify that in the chat.
So I will address both. So I don't know if Mr. Matthew needs to reach out to us, but in policy, we have guidance that says that RTI cannot replace ESL. So that's for the second part, if I'm thinking that's what he's asking. For the first part, I've seen schedules where there's a dedicated time to meet the needs of students based on what their needs are. I would like to get more information from Mr. Matthew on what he's asking to better support him. Is there a way to drop my email in there, Laura, or he can hear me? Joanne.runyon@tn.gov, please, Matthew. If you wouldn't mind emailing me, it's on the screen. Email Hannah and Sarah and I so that we can have a deeper conversation.
Y'all, that's what you call individual service from the state. So, yes, Dr. Gribble?
Say from a monitoring standpoint, if we look at schedules and we see that you're using that RTI time for your ESL classes, we're going to ask what your procedure is for what you do when one of those ELs also needs RTI.
Thank you, Hannah. Go for it, Dr. Clark, and then I will come to you. Okay.
All right, this is a question from Megan online.
I am curious if we will be able to have flex time due to WIDA results cutoff scores. Is there a specific score they need to receive to have flex time on their schedule in elementary?
So elementary, I think by flex time, Ms. Megan means tailored.
Not sure.
If it is tailored, yes, Ms. Megan, please look at your student scores and look at the guidance that we have in rule, and that will help you establish in your team the students that are able to have tailored services. So they can use WIDA access data to tailor services if I'm thinking she's using flex time as tailored.
Okay.
So what do you suggest for us to meet both of those requirements for RTI, especially if they're tier 3, so they, or maybe special ed, and they have these requirements, and we have in our requirement, especially where you can't push in, maybe you have too many students in different areas, different grades. We serve lots of schools in our county, and maybe several grades to one school. So the RTI time is the easiest time to use. If they're not tier 3, that's a little bit easier, but it's a really big problem.
It is, and I think this is what we're doing as we revamp our guidance around RTI. As you know, those of you that engage with that side of the house, there was some revisions to the guide that took away a lot of the prescriptive information around minutes, around number of students, that sort of thing, because we really do want it to be an individualized approach by student teams. There will be some additional guidance to help districts plan. But I think when you're looking at students that have multiple services, really think about the purpose of their individual learning plans or IEPs and what they're serving. Have those conversations with your special educator team, as they're part of your ILP team, to see what that ILP is addressing, that IEP is addressing. Like if the student is receiving language and speech services, and then they also have an individual learning plan that addresses their different needs in the language domains, have those conversations, see what their data looks like. You will have some students that can access tailored services. Have those students on tailored services. Talk about what your model looks like for tailored services in your school, so that way you have more time to address the students that might need some additional supports. But my suggestion is to work with your special educator team. If a student needs RTI, how is that being served in the school? Is it that there's like a walk to learn model that's separate, like for those 30 minutes or 25 minutes that's being used for tier 2, for example? Is there a way to schedule ESL service to where it is not in that block where all kids get that RTI support? So really looking at your schedules. I know that we have some folks that have worked with some consultants when it comes to scheduling to make sure that those services that are needed for kids are what we look at first, and then we work around like the other pieces. I had a district reach out asking about specific number of minutes for core areas. I'll be very honest. I reached out to several folks to support with that. We don't have like specific minutes that have to be like for math, for history, for science, right? The wording that I find is that, districts will work collaboratively with your teams to be able to schedule those. Yes.
Hey, I just had a question about exit criteria. Sure. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I know that several states look at more than just one data point, say the access criteria, the 4.4, 4.2. So they tend to look at more than just that one data point and look at a preponderance of evidence, and then as a team make a decision about exit. Because we know that some students, for a variety of different reasons, may be ready to exit ESL, but they're not capable of meeting that score. Have y'all had any conversations about looking at sort of a portfolio in terms of exit criteria?
Thank you. That's a great question. So the question is around looking at portfolio evidence for exit. Yes, we did. So prior to 2015, we started with a working group to help establish our ESL plan for the state of Tennessee. And some of the guidance that we got from the U.S. Department of Ed was that our procedures need to be standardized for entrance and exit. And so when we met as stakeholder groups, that was what was decided for Tennessee. However, As you think about that in your districts, I encourage you to provide feedback in sessions as we meet. When you see our rule come up, like for read, for a change, that's the opportunity for us to look at those sorts of things. Because with what you shared, I'm specifically thinking about our long-term English learners and how for these students, that might be something that we need to look at as a state. And so I really do appreciate you bringing that up. So I know Hannah, Sarah, and I were more than happy to have those conversations with you, see how we can elevate these asks. So as we're revising our ESL plans and so forth, maybe this is something that we can open up and look at and make those updates. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Okay, Dr. Clark.
And last question, actually a point of clarification. Some of the viewers did not hear this question, and just to clarify the question we did not hear, we will be checking language goals quarterly instead of every 4.5 weeks.
That is correct. So if folks pull up the ESL rule that says October 2022 down at the bottom of the page, that one will encompass the quarterly language instead of the 4.5 weeks. And Sarah, do you want to talk about your standards crosswalk before sorry, I've been taking up the whole time.
Oh, you're fine. So I just want to provide some more information around the Standards Crosswalk Working Group. I was really thankful to Catherine for bringing that up. And so in our commissioner's update that will come out on May 25th, that will include more details, more specific details around the dates, the times, and things like travel reimbursement. But I can go ahead and give you the dates now. Monday through Friday, June 26th through the 30th, we're going to be meeting at the downtown Tennessee Department of Ed, our Andrew Jackson building. And we'll be meeting every day except for that Monday. We'll meet at 10 o'clock just to provide time for travel. But it'll be 10 to 3:30 that Monday, and then 8:30 to 3:30 the remainder of the week. Our hope is that we can get really strong content educators in the areas of ELA and math to partner with our ESL specialist, and to work on bridging those academic standards with our ELD standards with WIDA. And so I know this is something that a lot of districts across the state have really expressed a great interest in, and kind of increasing the collaboration between our general education educators and our ESL specialists, and kind of getting them to work together. And then kind of diving in deeper and developing a language objective based on that standard for both levels 1 through 3 and then 3 through 6. So what will the objective be based on the standard, the language objective? How are we going to incorporate that language? What modes of communication are being used? It might be more than one, like listening and writing, for example, at the same time. And how are we going to also build in our scaffolds to address the needs of those learners and those different levels of language proficiency? So if you have any further questions, feel free to come up and talk to me about it. But we're really excited about that work, and hoping to represent ESL specialists and educators from all across Tennessee, and really get together and do some important work so that we have this finished product we can put in the hands of every educator and say, this is how we can incorporate language into every lesson, and really, help support our English learners.
So in addition to what Sarah has shared, we have monthly Title III office hours. Our next one is Monday, May 22nd, from 10 to 11:30. Several folks join us. I think we're up to 201 emails that goes out to, and then those folks share logins and whatnot with teachers that they want, to join if you aren't already directly on there. Those are great opportunities to hear updates as well. There are some times where I request some support from y'all. So for example, we know that an area that we, as we visited today, that we're really trying to grow is the professional development that we have available for our ESL teachers and our general content educators in the classroom. And so that's going to be one of our focus on Monday. If you have good ideas about how you're doing that in your district, we'd like to hear that from you, because now when we look at rule, and we went from that shift from being policy into rule, there's a lot more language in rule around what those areas are for training to ensure that, as it was said earlier, that we're all teachers of our English learners, to make sure that we're all the best equipped to meet their language needs. So we're asking for that support as well. And we'll also be looking at some supports around translation and interpretation procedures, just to see the services that y'all are using across the state, so that, possibly we can establish a statewide list of what districts have told us that they are using. So that is available for our folks that might be seeing English learners, and they, historically haven't served English learners in their district, and they need those supports within their LEAs. Anything else, Hannah, that I've left off, Sarah?
Really quick, just to access a lot of that information, if you will even Google just TDOE newsletters, you can subscribe to our commissioner's update. A lot of really good information, as well as the link to apply for that standards crosswalk working group will be in there. So I just want to make sure you knew how to access that, as well as an email blast was sent out to Title III directors. So you might want to reach out to your director and ask for that link so you can apply.
Yeah, your directors will have that information if you aren't able to locate, because I know we have some bad gateway links on some pages still, so they probably have the most up-to-date link.
Thank you, Tennessee Department of Education. Thank you, Dr. Hannah Gribble, Joanne Runyon, and Sarah Hendricks. Dr. Chloe Walters, would you join me for just a moment up here?
Yes, absolutely.
While Dr. Walters is coming up, remember, we're asking for your feedback, and if you want information about future collaboratives, go to our website at mtsu.edu/CEM. And if you navigate right to the PK-12 collaboratives, you'll see the schedules, you'll see information to register, and if you want to be on our mailing list, you can request through the website. So, Dr. Walters is a former teacher here in Rutherford County, and she's got a professional resume prior to Rutherford County, but she has moved from the classroom into working with Diverse Learners Cooperative, which she will tell you about briefly. And we're happy you're here because you've been a regular supporter of ours.
I have. I've been a regular fan as well. Thank you so much. I'm going to do the fast version of this to still get us out of here as close to 1:40 as possible. But my name is Chloe. I work for a nonprofit based in Nashville called the Diverse Learners Cooperative. We first and foremost believe that students of all abilities and educational backgrounds should have access to high quality educational opportunities, as well as highly equipped educators, no matter what classroom that they're in. We exist to create purposeful networks of educators, providing them not only with resources necessary to support these populations of students, but with other teachers that are doing the same thing that they can learn from. You can read my bio on the Diverse Learners Cooperative website. That's how I'll speed this up a little bit. But I have worked in the classroom, I have worked in leadership positions, and I have really, really enjoyed nothing more than working with teachers of multilingual learners to better support their students and better support their colleagues, which is now what I get to do every day at the Diverse Learners Cooperative. A little bit about some upcoming service offerings that we have. So we believe it's the collective responsibility of a whole school as opposed to just the designated ML teachers and special education teachers to educate these students and provide them with maximum opportunities for education. So some ways that we do that are professional learning workshops that help you support your general education colleagues. We also have specific teacher learning communities and cohorts for teachers of multilingual learners, and you can find the information on that. That's a full year of support with our program specialists. Oops, so sorry about that. And we provide you with resources, a digital library full of shared resources, as well as some one-on-one mentorship if need be. We also have a teacher leader fellowship. Shout out to one of our teacher leader fellows for the upcoming year, Andrew Rainey. And then we also have a coach collaborative. So if you are in an academic coaching position, we do have a collaborative led by my wonderful colleagues as well. In addition to the learning communities, we also partner directly with schools. So we don't necessarily just partner with districts or charter networks or private school networks. We do work one-on-one with teachers in schools. I do have some printed information if you are a pen and paper person, but you can find all of this information on our website as well. And if you have any questions, I'll hang out a little bit to chat about how we can partner together to support multilingual learners in your schools. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Walters. I hope you come back to the ELL Collaborative after being here today. Our next one is July 6th. It will be in this room. It will be on site and not live streamed that day. It will only be an on site. However, we will record it and post for later viewing. But July 6th, we've got 4 great sessions on that day for teachers. And on July 7th, we have 4 great sessions for administrators on ESL. So let your administrator know we have an admin day coming on July 7th here at MTSU in this room. And again, we will record it and post it later if you can't be here, but I urge you to be here. You can access all the videos from the ELL Collaborative on our website, and I gave you the website under PD Videos. We have a nice library of topics there. I want to give a special thanks to the production team here and the event coordination team here at MTSU Center for Educational Media. They are the ones who make this thing happen and bring it to you. With that, we're going to wrap it up. It's been a long day, but I hope a productive day. I hope you can take something and use it and to make your teaching life easier and life for your students easier. Thank you for being here at the Center for Educational Media, Middle Tennessee State University ELL Collaborative. Thank you.